Alright guys, I'm recording a screencast video about how to post each episode, so we have some redundancy in this process of the production. There are a lot of little details in there that I want to show you guys, so make sure we are all on the same page, and in case I can't post episodes in the future, we all know what to do. Alright, so I am, as you can see, in the Model Majority Podcast Google Drive folder. I'm going to go to raw recordings. We are posting episode 61 with Dan Koh, so I'm going to this folder. And this happens right after Tony has already edited the entire episode. So the file that you would use to post is this thing called Mixdown. It's an MP3 file. Just make sure you check the format to make sure this is the right file, as opposed to all these other WAV files, which is the raw recording that we made. And what I usually like to do is move this final audio file to a different folder called Locked Final Episodes. So we will click move there, click OK, just so we are better organized with our files. And then if you go back to the home directory, you go to locked final episodes, you will see 61 Mixdown that I just posted. I usually like to just rename it with the word locked, just so we know it's the final version. You don't really have to, but I just like to do that. And now we can download this onto our hard drive, onto our laptop. You just go to download, you right click on this file, then you go to download, anyway, and then you just go to download. I usually put it on my desktop. And as it downloads, this is the moment where I fire up iTunes. I usually go to my library, and in the music section, you can make up your own music playlist, right? So I just usually have an MMP episode playlist that's empty. It's just where I process some of the metadata of the episode before we post it. So after it's downloaded over here, I just drag it into this area, and it's there. And now it's time to populate some of the basic information. You go to song info, and song right here is just the episode title. And we have a pretty, not like a strict standard, but I usually like to make sure the title is no more than 5 or 6 words, because that is, number one, makes it a punchier title, so people will likely click on it more and listen to it. And number two, if it gets too long, then people can't really see it on their mobile phone and stuff like that. So make sure your title is no more than 5 or 6 words. And this is usually something I just kind of come up with on the fly. And the convention is I have the episode number 061 : right next to me. And then I put down the episode name. So this is a little bit of a creative process that you go through, whoever posts the episode. And this week, since we are talking about Ryan Zinke being an idiot, my idea is just, it's Ohio gozaimasu. Yeah. That is the episode title. So I usually put it in here. And then the rest of this information, we have that all saved in our drive. It actually is in the digital copywriting file. If you go scroll a little bit lower in this document, this is the section that we use to populate this information. So I usually would first copy and paste the artist information, go back to iTunes, and then you put that in the artist text box, the album artist text box, and also the composer text box. All right, and then you go back, you grab the show description, which is this line right here, copy and paste it. You put that in the album section and also the grouping section. And then for genre, you would search for podcast. Podcast. Click on that, and then track, I just put 61 because that is our current episode. And then the next thing you do is you go to artwork. And this is where you upload kind of our normal standard album art. And I have this file saved in my desktop, but you can also get it from our Google Drive in the images folder. That's the only thing that's in there right now. So this is the file that you put in to the album art section, but I have it on my desktop, so I'll just upload it from there. Go back to iTunes, go to add artwork, and then in my really messy desktop, I have a save here, mmp album art.png, open. And then that's pretty much good to go. You can usually check on the file panel how long this thing is going to be. So this episode duration is about 50 minutes, which is pretty good. We never want to go beyond an hour. And then after that, you go to OK. And at this point, I would just drag this onto my desktop. And this is actually the final file that we are uploading into Libsyn, which is where we host all of our files. So we drag it, I just find a little corner, I just toss it in there, all right? And then now I go to Libsyn. So it's libsin.com. This is where we host all of our audio files so people can download it. You go to login, and the login information is all in our Google Drive as well, so you don't have to memorize this. Even though I apparently need to memorize this. So after we log in to our Libsyn dashboard, this is where you see all of our download number as well. So we actually need to do a better job of boosting our downloads. Not doing so great these days, but this is where it happens. And this is actually now the time I go to WordPress, which is where we host our website. So start another tab, go to Model Majority Podcast, and this is the second one you go to is /wp-admin/edit.php. This is how we go to the admin panel to do all the editing. So click on that. Go to login with username and password. And again, all this information is in the Google Drive as well, so you don't have to memorize it, but the username is admin, password is whatever the password is. You go to login. Takes a little while. Internet is slow. Don't really know why. It's usually not this slow. This is actually really weird. Okay, finally we're in here. Okay. So how do we post a new episode? Number one, I usually click on an old episode. Here, number 60. Okay. And then I will copy paste this section right here on the bottom. Well, I usually just copy and paste the whole thing, and I will change the content later. But it's more to just keep all these links that we want people to have when they visit this episode page consistent. So I go to copy paste, and then I go to add new. And add new just means we're adding a new post for our new episode. I'm going to toss that information in here. And then the title is the same thing that we came up with just now in iTunes. So it's Ohayo gozaimasu. Idiot. Idiot meaning Ryan Zinke, obviously. And after we do that, WordPress sometimes I'm going to start changing the content for this. But what you see here is that WordPress actually generated a link for us automatically. And we should always change this link to have the name of our guest, also with some other keywords in there. And this is better for our search engine optimization. Otherwise, people can't actually find this episode if they were searching, say, randomly for our guest. And we want this episode, obviously, to be seen when people are searching for it. All right, so make sure you change this. And the convention is usually I like to start with our guest's name. So Dan Koh. I usually have some little bits about what they're known for. So in this case is, Congress candidate or congressional candidate, Massachusetts, right? And then because we also talked about Colleen Hanabusa and Ryan Zinke in this episode, those being like the two most famous names, perhaps, I just like to kind of jam all that in here. Hanabusa, Ryan Zinke in here. So you can kind of play around with what this link end up saying, and you can see it's actually a hyphen with each word, so no other sign. Like each word should be separated with a hyphen. That's just how these URL work. And kind of jam in these keywords, so hopefully people will search and find and run into this episode. Go to OK. And then this is now the new link for this page. And now I would edit this section to describe what this episode does. So it's super quick. Oh, Dan Koh. And again, I always begin the description with the name of our guest if we have one. The reason being, if you go to iTunes and then you say you search for the Model Majority Podcast, right? You actually go to iTunes Store. This is perhaps how some people find us. You go here, you click on the website. We see that this description section is what shows up right here. And that's why we always put our guest name first. So whenever people run into our episode, they will see, oh, who's on? And that might trigger them to listen to a little bit more. All right. So that's the reason why we do all these like kind of very detailed optimization to make sure that our episodes get discovered. So here I will do this description writing a little bit later, but this is where you kind of just go, oh, Dan Koh, congressional candidate for MA3 is where they're running, joins the podcast to talk about his story, career, blah, 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 blah. And then in this episode, Tony and Kevin. Tony also returns from vacation to bring news and tidings from Hawaii, and he and Kevin also discuss Ryan Zinke racist moment with Congresswoman Colleen Hanabusa and Kevin's essay in ASAM News about family, tech, cross-border tech trends, and API identity. And this is where you can slot in some links to this as well. Why he's running for Congress. So very short and sweet, and this is kind of where you do your creative writing. So do whatever you want, but just give this episode a quick wrap up. And some other details here. You want to check the podcast category. This is how it actually gets showed up onto our homepage. So I'll show you how that works exactly. And the tag, put in again, kind of like how we want people to like search for this episode. So, people's name essentially a lot of the times. Hanabusa, Ryan Zinke. I don't know anything else you want to put there, but you can add this a little bit later too. This is not like a huge deal per se, but add a little bit in there. And one piece that I want to make sure you guys know is that we always want to have a featured image for every single episode. And the reason is, if you go to our homepage, modelmajoritypodcast.com, the newest episodes gets a lot of imagery automatically shown behind the scene or behind this home banner, which is very compelling for people who come to our website. If we don't put up an image, this whole thing is just black, which doesn't look very good. So the reason is that's the reason why I make those little basically Instagram pictures every single week that is somewhat relevant to this particular episode. I already made the one for this week, and I'm going to upload that file from my desktop right now. Is named 61, but I will write a very short instruction page as well on how you guys can make it on your phone. It takes literally like 2 minutes. But it takes a lot of good engagement for an episode. So this is the episode I made. We uploaded this image onto this featured image section, and you want to click Set Featured Image. So now it's in here, right? Okay, so all this is done. But one thing we haven't done, of course, is actually link the actual episode content to this particular post. And this is when we go back to Libsyn. We go to content, hover over it, hover over content, go to add new episode. And here is where you add the media file. So remember the iTunes file that we made just a minute ago with all of our information in there, that is the file you actually upload from your desktop. So you go to add media file, you go to upload from hard drive, and the name of that file for me was 061. This is kind of like that default name that just generates itself when you drag that file from iTunes onto your desktop. So usually that's just the naming convention, and just to make sure you don't upload the wrong file. You open it. Now it's uploading. Let it upload. During the same time, you want to go to details. You have to add a title. So just go back to the WordPress page, copy and paste, add the title, add the description, kind of copy and paste this whole thing, and then you wait for this thing to upload, which could take a little bit of time, but you just have to wait for it. So we will just wait together, and during this time, I want to just reiterate a few points every time we post. Make sure you go to WordPress and modify the permalink with our guest name and any other kind of relevant keywords in there separated by hyphens, so these posts hopefully get discovered when people search for these people, right? And make sure the title is very short and kind of spunky, not very rambly like this is what we talked about today, but like something that kind of makes a point, maybe even a little bit controversial, and that's how you get people to click on these things. And then, of course, the description itself, make sure they are short and sweet, and have a good rundown of what we talked about this week. All right? And then lastly, make sure you upload the featured image. And once I post this episode in a few minutes, you will see why this is relevant to make our website look good. Let's see if it's still uploading. 13 seconds, less than 10 seconds now. All right. Hopefully I'm still recording. Yes, I am. Great. All right, so now it's processing after it's been uploaded. And when that's all done, you will see, oh, okay, this is all done. The file's in there. Upload is successful. And now you click publish. Okay. And here is how you link the episode to the post. See right here, this top section, direct download URL. You want to double click on this. You want to copy this URL, copy and paste this URL. Go back to our page, our post page in WordPress. Scroll down to this media URL section in the podcast episode panel. You copy and paste this link. You click on verify URL. You get media verified successfully. You want to make sure you get this message. We've never really not gotten this message, but if this ever doesn't come up, then there's something wrong with your uploading and you have to go fix it. But 10 out of 10 times so far, this is working. So media verified successfully right here. And one last check I want to do usually before I just click on publish. And after we click on publish, then the world gets this episode is that I go back to this thing that we just uploaded. I go to content, I go to previously published episode, and then you see the brand new episode that was just published, right here. And I want to always play it just so I make sure I did upload the right episode, because I have made this mistake before and people actually
I'm an eternal optimist, and I always feel like America's best days are in front of us. This is obviously the right one.
Just want to double check one last time. All right, so all good. And then we have everything in our WordPress page. The link is all verified. The image is in there. And, the right boxes are all checked. Now we go to publish. And then once this publishing is done, then boom. All right, this is all set and ready to go. So now this episode is out into the world. And again, going back to the homepage for our purpose, if you go back to monomajority.com, you refresh it. The newest episode is now 61. It has our title on it. It also has kind of a little bit of a portion of the image that we just uploaded, which is very nice because it's a very compelling kind of a homepage design that might get people to click on it. We want more people to come to our homepage as well for other reasons. And then that's why we want to make sure we upload an image, a thumbnail image like this. And this is how our other episodes are listed as well. So click on that. And then this is how you can listen to it on our website. All right, so that is it for how to upload this stuff. I will follow up with a quick instruction on how to make this particular little Instagram image with this stuff. Super simple. And then let me know if you have any questions.